Welcome back to Friday's 29-7 moment. Last week we started to talk about the idea of what it would mean for us to bring shalom into our world around us, the sense of flourishing and harmony and beauty and peace that's reflective of that future promise that God, through the work of Jesus, is going to bring about lasting, perfect, flourishing, and peace. And yet we're called through that 29-7 reality to bring the Jeremiah 29:7 realities, to bring a little bit of that, a taste of that into the communities in which we live. And so we talked about the idea of learning how to listen last week. And I had mentioned that we would probably talk about that at least a little bit longer. At least we'll talk about it this week. The idea of listening is hard. It's hard for us to listen. But the beautiful idea of loving well includes this idea of learning to listen. James, in James chapter 1, said we ought to be quick to hear, quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Man, I am not good at that. It's something that all of us can probably learn to grow in. But one of the things that I came across recently, a helpful article that talks about active listening, talks about the 3 A's of active listening. And maybe you've heard of these before. 3 A's: attention, attitude, and adjustment. And I think these are helpful. Number 1, attention. That's the idea that we're seeking to understand rather than seeking to win an argument. We're seeking to understand what we're hearing from this other person. So we pause to ask clarifying questions. We lean in. We're looking for them to share what's really going on in their heart and not go into the conversation with a sort of having the conversation before we've had the conversation. You know what I mean when I say this. We imagine in our minds, maybe especially in tense moments, those moments where we'll say, oh, as soon as I say this, she's going to say this, or he's going to say that, and so now I've got to be ready to respond with this. And we have an entire conversation. We've written a script before we even get there. Attention means slowing down and not necessarily having that conversation before we've had the conversation, which leads us to the second A, attitude. When I go into a conversation already assuming the way it's going to go, I go in with a certain attitude. Frankly, it's a kind of an arrogant attitude. It's an assumption that I, like God, know the future, when I don't. We don't know what the person's going to say. We might have well-worn history that we can look to and say, there's a good chance this might happen. But if we go into the conversation with that assumption, we're taking the role of God and we're saying, I can dictate what will happen. I know all things, when we don't. And so there's this idea of humility built into that. I'm not God. And with that, a teachability, a readiness to learn something that I didn't already know about this person's opinion or position or what they might end up doing. And so teachability is important. It's what my old senior pastor used to call knowing your mind but not having your mind made up. It's coming into a conversation, understanding what you think but not assuming that you're right. Give space for teachability, that this person might surprise you. And then the last is adjustment. It's not good enough to know your mind and not have your mind made up. The next and last piece of active listening is now adjusting or changing the direction of where I thought this conversation will go or what I thought this person believed. Slowing down and asking those questions and clarifying, and then coming to the position where I'm able to say, now I've heard you. Now I understand. And then living out of that new understanding. It's incredible. And it has the opportunity and the ability to actually reduce the anxiety that often comes in our conversations and in our relationship. Attention, attitude, and adjustment. All of that so that we might bring shalom, peace to the people around us. Have a good day.